Okay, so we extracted this piece. We have it in the outliner. We deleted the history. We ungrouped it from the original part that was connected to, and this guy needs to get into the group. So manually, I'm going to hold down the middle mouse button, and then I have this my icon change. The cursor changes, and just drag, holding down the middle mouse button, and drop it into the templates group. So now everything is in there. This is my actual wall space. Okay, now I'm pretty much ready to extrude. So that's kind of completes the first part. So I select the whole piece all together. I don't select the faces. I select all the object because we want everything to be extruded. And we want to go Edit Mesh, Extrude, and reset the settings. You might have divisions from different settings, so just reset the settings so we have only one division, and extrude, and pull on the Z. And let's do on the extrusion here. I'm going to go to the settings as it's running. See that now I'm like pulling the Z, and you can see local translate Z. I'm just going to put one unit here. So remember that you added a certain number to the extrusion, because if you extrude another wall, you want to extrude the same thickness. So remember that and mark that number down so it's 1, so you know it's 1 or 0.5, because sometimes you will delete the history and that information is gone. You don't even know how much it is. So just remember that whenever you extrude a wall space and you configure a unit, make sure you use the same unit for everything else. So now I'll start adding some frames inside these spaces. I only have the wall space. I need now to install the frames. So how do we make a frame? I'll show you a couple of workflows. One is kind of strange. It's a strange concept, but it makes a lot of sense after I do it. I'm going to start with a pipe tool. So I'm done with my wall space. I'm going to start with my pipe tool and create a pipe. So how does that going to become a frame? So the pipe tool has some, if you go to the channel box over here, it has some options, some numbers that we can change. Before I do that, let me make that Lambert material a little bit lighter so you can see it better. So I'm going to click Control A, go to the channel box, go to the polypipe 1 under the inputs, and go ahead and change the subdivisions to 4. Since we want frames like window frames, door frames, painting frame, any frame, you can actually start with this as a prototype, and then it's really convenient. So the pipe tool becomes a frame. The problem is, okay, let's make the thickness smaller. This we're going to change it as we go. Let's make the height smaller so we have a frame. The problem is that this frame, if you notice, let's go on the top view, it's 45-degree angled on our perfectly organized wall. So that's not a good angle. So how do we change this orientation? So we click E, and I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to hold down the J key. If you hold down the J key, it clicks, and you rotate some object, it snaps every 15 degrees. So now I snapped it on 45. I rotated it on the Y 45 degrees. That should be right. Let's look at it on the top view, make sure that it's right. Everything has to be designed in an orthocanonic system, so everything needs to be 90 degrees angled. So now this looks okay. This looks okay. But the problem is trying to rotate this now. You see the rotation tool has changed a little bit because we're 45-degree angle. If you want to rotate it on the Z, that's fine. But if you want to rotate it again on the X later on, it's not fine because it's going to go like that. So how do we get away from this problem? Okay, we rotated 45 degrees, and the rotational gizmo is stuck into a different angle. So the next step we do is to go modify, freeze transformations, and it sets everything up back to normal. So first we create the pipe, we break it down to 4 subdivisions, we rotate it 45 degrees so it's all orthocanonic really placed, and then we freeze transformations, so the rotational tools, translations, rotations, scales go back to normal and everything resets, so it's now I can do all the things I need to do, so I can rotate it. So I need to rotate it on the Z. Make sure you always double check your rotation numbers. A lot of times people have rotated it a little bit accidentally and it's like just like that. These numbers are deadly. They can like really kill the whole model as you keep going, because then you don't notice it sometimes because you don't see it in the perspective, and that's a problem. So you have to go make sure you zero everything out, or 90 degrees. Go to the side view, and I'm going to bring this frame and bring it and position it in here. Of course, scale it smaller, bring it. So let me fit this in here and start grabbing the vertices to move them up. Grab these vertices, move them down. This I can really eyeball. Just you have to go close and make sure you bring this. Object mode, perspective, let's bring it in inside the frame here. Okay, so now let's say that's my first approach, but maybe I want to make a more complicated window. So what I need to do is go to the side view, select this. Let's say I wanted to have a frame that is a smaller frame up here, a smaller frame, and then a larger frame down, and then another frame. So this is sort of like a little frame over the window frame, so with a little piece of glass. Now you see that I'm moving the vertices all over the place, and the pivot is starting to be in a different area. So that whenever you want to center the pivot, just go ahead and modify center pivot so everything is centered. I'm going to use this for the other frame, so duplicate that, Command D, bring the other frame down, select it, and bring it all the way down. Make sure this so I have these two frames. Now what if I wanted to so this is going to be my group of my first window frame that is going to open and it's going to be hinged. I need to keep working on this, so the next thing I'm going to do is to create a window, a glass. So that's why we had these templates here. Basically, let's do, I'm going to the outliner. Let's say I change my mind. I'm going to take these templates, the first ones, and I'm going to make another layer, since I don't want them to be confused with the other templates that I extract from the polygons. So I'm going to create a new layer and add these over there. So I have my, those are going to be my templates, windows and doors. So I can name that. I give it a different naming convention. So I have my window pane here. All these windows and doors, or like that we're going to be using right now, have their pivot point elsewhere. It's like always somewhere else. We need to reset it. So everything needs to be positioned in the center. So I'm going to select all of them. Make sure it's selected. Modify center pivot. Let's go to the first one. Side view. So I need two pieces of glass, one for this guy and one for the larger frame. So now that is over here, I'll make this smaller. So this needs to be inside the frame, a little bit inside the frame. So this I can name it window pane 01 and duplicate that and make another one, scale it down, which is going to be my other window here. And let's make some transparent material right now for these guys. So I select window pane number 1, so I can see them here in the outliner. I'm going to select them, select window pane number 1, command window pane number 2, get them out of the group, select them both, right click, go down to assign new material. These are the materials. Let's make a Lambert. Let's use Lambert materials, and that's going to be a little bit of a different color. I'm going to use a different color, like a blue or a green, to indicate the window. And also I'm going to use a transparency. I'm just going to increase the transparency a little bit. If I press 5, you can see that these are transparent. I'm going to select both of them and move them inside the frame. I'm not done yet. I need some handles here, and how can we make a handle? And we can use the curve tools, or we'll see. Let's look at some options. We can look at some options in a minute, but before I go there, I'm going to also bevel the edges. I think we used bevel before. I don't remember very. Have we used bevel? No? Okay. So let me make this a little bit closer here. Just fixing the frames a little bit. So I'm going to select this small frame and see that a lot of times a CG object has very sharp edges. In reality, nothing has sharp edges. It's not like a razor. We would be like cutting our hand all the time if it was if we were walking in the CG model and everything was like so sharp, you couldn't even it would be very, very like dangerous. So it's unrealistic, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So a lot of times in reality, even if you see like your Mac screen, it has a little bit of a bevel. Everything has a little bit of a bevel. Like even the ones that look really sharp, there's like a beveling between the surfaces, in between when we change from this surface to the next, and there's a little bevel. So we need to determine that into the model here. So select the whole piece and edit mesh bevel. If you click, then it creates this transition between the edges, but that's very rough. I mean, we can make it much smaller. Now we have now this is kind of like in a lot of transitioning. We can go to the inputs here of the poly bevel and make this offset less, like 0.1. It's very, very tiny. You'll notice that if I turn off the contours, notice if I move around, you can see like this little highlight here makes this look more realistic.